Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm here with Tanner Stewart, and this is a really cool guy. I think we met just over LinkedIn actually. I saw that you were like in like the Stu Kent sales thing, and I reached out, and then we just talked a little bit, and then we met in person. And dude, I'm just so inspired by your success in sales so far, and just your success as a person. So thanks for coming on the show.
Wow, that means a lot. Thank you so much. That's a big compliment. So I appreciate that.
No, I definitely mean that. So let's go into your growing up years. Like one thing I'm really inspired by with you, Tanner, is just your ability to think of like what's like to prioritize the present moment and to do what needs to be done in the moment. So is there something from like your childhood that like really instilled that in you, or where did that come from?
Yeah, I think sports was a huge piece of that. I played water polo, which is not as common as the normal baseball, soccer, football type thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was the kid who I had a whiteboard in my room, and instead of using it for school, I would write down every single time one of my coaches gave me like any type of feedback or critiques. And then every before every game and practice, I would reread, and eventually I had, a huge whiteboard full of different bullet points and things, and I would draw little pictures, um, and it just allowed me to, become the best possible because I took all that feedback, um, and just plugged it in, time after time. Um, and then I think as well, um, just learning from, especially my dad, just the value of like hard work. Hard work pays off. Be the person that works harder than everyone else. And you might not be the best at something, but if you work the hardest, then you'll become the best. So I think a little bit of those things for sure.
That's good. I really like what you said about giving things permission to compound. Like I basically said like those words verbatim, a little bit ago. And just it's cool like when you work on those things and you keep letting it simmer and it grows, I mean it becomes more clear to you how you're able to grow and that leads to confidence. So that's something I've been doing a little bit is I write down like things I'm celebrating the day or something that I learned from the day. And when you add all those up, I mean you got this pretty awesome, list.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you take all of those things you learned from water polo. Where was the you think like the first big thing? Like I took all of this from water polo and I put it into something else and I saw that it works in that arena as well.
I think that, school was obviously big. Um, Serving a mission for my church also, plugging in, being willing to take feedback and adapt and change, learning a new language of Portuguese. It's very similar too. You got to continually fail to succeed and make mistakes, just like it is in sports. And then I'd say, like in my professional career, doing summer sales, um, honestly was the foundation of getting me into sales more. So I'm grateful, but also very much so, you have to take a lot of critiques, understand where you can improve. Um, I was the guy who'd get up an hour early and read the manual and watch videos for an hour to make sure that I was locked in every day. And I definitely was not the most talented salesman, but by the end of the summer, I had beat out a lot of my peers because I was willing to knock 200 doors in a day to get my first sale, and those started to add up. So, yeah, I think it is continued as a theme in my life to just be the one that works harder than anyone else and do whatever it takes, to get to where I want to be. So,
That's good. Yeah, I think of something I had that Paul had when I had him on the show. He talked Paul Mariquin when he talked about some of his sales journey and being willing to fail and just some of the really like hard moments like door gets slammed in your face or your pitch falls apart and you just knew like this person was gonna open up to you and then your pitch fell apart and it's like you just beat yourself up or whatever. Like, how did you learn to bounce back from those moments? What did you do there?
Yeah. It's I think it's a lot of just like how you view them. If you view them as like um stepping stones, we would always say, every slammed door was one door closer to our next lay down sale, which I always, it was like kind of a joke, but it was also like true. And so I think it's the same in software sales. Like every person that says no is getting you closer to the next person that says yes. Obviously, it's a little different, but um, I think just viewing any type of like failure as an opportunity to learn and grow rather than, hey, like I suck, I failed, I'm the worst. Using it as like a growing experience and being humble enough to admit like where you could have done better. And then you learn from that, and then you just continually get better. And then you end up failing less because you know a little bit more of what you're doing. So,
That's good. Okay, let's get into the empathy piece because I just get that sense when I talk with you, Tanner, that you care about people and you're just there for people. So where's the line when it comes to like I'm working really really hard, but I'm also like making time for the people I care about and I'm there for like the clients I serve.
are you talking about like a work-life balance, or are you talking about like, um, I guess, are you talking about like empathy with the people that I'm actually selling to, or
I guess it'd be more like empathy for the people in your life, like making sure
okay,
you make time for them in your life and don't get like super gone like you know what I mean.
yeah. So it's funny because one of the things you mentioned as one of my strengths, I think, can also be a weakness of being like all in, hyper focused on one thing. Like that can also be bad because um, you're constantly switching the gear of where you need to be all in. So, um, one of the things in sales, you're constantly getting emails, calls after hours. Um, you know, there's agreements you're waiting on. And so I was, especially when I was a new account executive, I was like checking my phone pretty often at home in the evenings. Um, and my wife was not a huge fan for obvious reasons. And, we kind of just eventually had a talk like, hey, love that you're all in at work and you're having success, but we need that same focus and energy at home too. And so eventually it was like, hey, I'm gonna freaking work my butt off and do everything, go 110%. I'm definitely not gonna skip a good game of ping pong at work though, but you know, put as much energy and focus as I can. And then when I get home, work's at work and now I'm home. And so it's full focus, energy, and effort there. And so I think what happens is people try and intermingle both, try and like say, like the things start blending into each other. And it's not always easy to separate them, but I think doing it the best you can at focusing at one thing at a time has definitely helped me. So
They start to look the same, they start to blend together and yeah, you're not sure if like is this work, is this rest, it's really frustrating when it gets to that point. So I'm with you, like when you're able to, be like this is my clear like I'm turning that part of my life off sort of, kind of thing,
hmm
and I'm turning it on, having that difference is a game changer, I believe, just being able to do what needs to be done. And I think of this one YouTube video I listened to from Michael Jordan's coach, and he'd always have golf clubs on the plane that Michael would go on because Michael loved playing golf, in between games and stuff, and it helped him like let go and release because if he's anywhere close to a basketball court, people are going to swarm him, and probably at the golf courses too. But it's not going to be as bad. He's going to be
yeah,
able to take himself away so he can come back even harder when he goes back.
yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the cool things is like if you're never away, you never know. Like you're never separating yourself, and you can't come back stronger. You know, if you never stopped going on your run, it was just a one big long run. it would end up being pretty miserable, right? And you probably wouldn't be able to improve a lot, but by like coming back home, taking a rest, taking a shower, going to sleep, I think it's a similar thing with life. You gotta take rest when it's time to rest, and then you gotta work hard when it's time to work hard, and then the two make the other more enjoyable.
That's good. Yeah, so I like what you said about just I don't know, it's just when you're able to create that gap, it's just so much more clear. So I love that. So now that you're you know, preparing to be a father, you know, in the next little bit, what do you think about when it comes to your dad? And you said he was hardworking and everything like that. What are some things you want to instill in like your family?
Yeah, so my dad has a pretty cool story. He grew up really poor. They had a tiny, tiny little house. And he paid his own way all the way through his PhD. And he became a microbiologist. Um, Dr. Stewart, definitely not the path I would have chosen at all. But I think I took a lot of his same mentality of, I'm gonna have a family and I want them to have the most comfortable life possible. And so, I did sports for years and years, and I did club, and we traveled and we flew and we drove. It was a little, it's a good financial investment as well as time. And so that's something I've thought about a lot is like, I want to provide all the opportunities for my, kid to succeed as well as my wife, and just our family as a whole. It definitely drives me for sure.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it'll be interesting to talk with you maybe down the road about how that's going and things you're learning. But I love that just having that in mind of knowing that this is going to be a reality. You know, that's something that is inspiring to me is taking the time to be like, okay, this is not a if or when it or you know, this is a kind of a guaranteed thing. If I stay on the path that I'm on, doing what I'm doing, eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. Um, yeah, I preach that to as many people as I can. You got to just start. If if you're not sure what you want to do in life, start something and then pivot from there. But you got to start, Um, because that's what I did. I started. I don't know that I was like 100% committed to sales when I started, but I started early, did some internships, and then, kind of just fell in love with it. So, I mean, I always had an idea since I was like 15 that I wanted to do sales, but, it was just a matter of what type, when, and where, all those things. But
That's good. So let's go into like the thought process. We talked a little bit before we started talking, a little pre-chat, but something you said in there really resonated with me. It's like how the brain can occupy itself like endlessly, like by itself, and so we have to be able to like you know lay down the law, kind of like help target channel things so we can get done what we need to do. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
yeah, yeah, I think I've seen it a lot in sales, um, because you're kind of the master of your own fate in a lot of ways. And so, um, I mean, yesterday was a great example. I was working all day, but by the end of the day, I was tons of calls short. So I had to kind of like hustle to get all my calls done. And what happens is like, I find myself, you can stay busy, but not exactly like effective busy or efficient busy. Um, so I think one of the things that's helped me a lot is just like, Um, I'll make like checklists all the time at home. I'll make them on my phone, on post-it notes at work. Just top priority down to things that don't matter as much. So I think, just in life, it's important. There's things you got to figure out. And there's bills to pay, health insurance. We're getting a bunch of stuff for our kid right now. That's top priority. And then you have, things that come after. And so I think, um, being proactive rather than reactive, is always something I strive for. it's way harder than it is to talk about. But yeah, it's definitely something I always strive to do is like, hey, I'm gonna plan what I'm gonna do rather than just let my mind kind of decide what it wants to do, because odds are it's gonna choose the easiest, most chill thing, which is always, not always the thing that needs to get done. So
That's good. So how do you like make time for the LinkedIn posting and these other like parts of like building you outside of work? I guess I wrote it down as like your like professional profile. Like not necessarily a social media profile, but like a professional profile, that part of your work.
interesting question. How do I make time for that?
And what's that
Um,
look like? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think, and this honestly makes me think of like a previous point of our conversation is like everything starts to blend together. Um, I think, um, you know, I'm always gonna be Tanner, whether I'm at home or work, and so that's always gonna be, the exciting, hopefully friendly is what everyone thinks guy. And I think a lot of it honestly just starts to you don't have to like put so much effort into one thing or the other because you're always just that same person with the same energy. So when we talk about like, well, how do you make time for like LinkedIn and networking and, all of that? I think it just starts to become part of just the day to day of like, hey, if someone messages me on LinkedIn wondering what it's like to work at Home Care Pulse, well, that's taking in the side of me that's just like friendly. I would love to just chat with anyone about anything. And then that's also like the professional side of me. I want people to succeed. I want them to make money. And so, it just starts to blend together. And so, you know, always keeping a schedule. Of course, I could be better with time zones, apparently, as we found out today. But keeping a schedule, my work calendar is something I go off pretty religiously, or at least try to. Um, One of our leaders here talks a lot about time blocking, which I think is critical. Um, if you don't have something scheduled or not, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think that's a big part of it for sure.
I mean, it blows my mind, Tanner, like how much like having something like this can help me like structure the rest of my day. Like if I know I have this at a certain point, well, I know I need to be getting some stuff done beforehand so I can be present and on the call. It's really crazy. I mean, how powerful accountability can be. Like if you have like a basketball team or you have some group you talk with, you know that you can bring yourself to that and you'll be able to benefit from that and they're counting on you. Is there like any accountability groups you're part of, or how's accountability kind of like helped you in your life or with the sales team you're on?
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things actually about sales is the accountability aspect. Um, all of our numbers, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, they're posted on a dashboard that everyone can see. Um, that drives me because every day I'm like, I want to be above everyone else every week and every month, like it drives me for sure. And so I think there's the accountability in that way at my job. Um, there's not a similar dashboard for your life, There's not like, Tanner has done 3 loads of laundry this week and Dallin's only done one, So Tanner, it's not the same. So I struggled with that. And I kind of came to the realization that you're measured more on your intentions and being intentional with your actions, And so that's how I keep myself accountable is like, are my intentions in the right place? Did I fail to do something because I intended not to, or because I just honestly had other things going on? Um, and then, of course, my wife keeps me accountable. She's really great, helps me, drives me in a lot of different areas. But yeah, I think if there was a dashboard for life, that would be sweet, but I don't think it's that easy. So,
Yeah, I think it's good that there isn't one per se, like to have like a super
Probably.
public one. But I do like making ones like personally just for myself. Like that's something I did on my mission. Honestly, I did that. I wanted to see like how often I actually got up when they said to get up and how often I wrote in my journal and how often I did all these things and I was able to track it. Like okay, out of 42 cuz like what they call the transfer was 6 weeks. And so
Yeah,
I was able to like do the percentages and you can get a lot of data that way. And that's something that I was just doing for myself and I find I'm really driven by that kind of stuff even if it doesn't like move the needle a ton. It seems like it's still like inspiring to me. So what would be some things I guess that you would want to have on your dashboard of that kind of if there was that like for you?
dashboard of life, huh? Um, yeah, I think because I don't know, it's so hard because there's a lot that goes into like I'm just thinking like from a weekly basis. Um, you know, I I hate paying bills because this is not fun in any way. But on the other hand, like I don't mind doing laundry, um, which is kind of weird. I don't mind doing that. But neither of those are watching the NBA playoffs, right? And so, um, I think for me, it would be helpful for basically to just see like, um, maybe not so much like a bar chart of like how many times I've done something, but like a checklist, um, of my weekly to-dos and see how many I actually get through of what needs to be done versus what could be done, such as watching basketball. It's really not that important. However, you can do the laundry while watching basketball. You get creative with things. So, um, just little things like that, finding ways to enjoy things that aren't as enjoyable, um, I think is important too. I don't know if that answers your question, but
I think it gets to some of the heart of it is that we need to make life more enjoyable. We need to celebrate little wins and do what we can because no matter what storm we're in right now, I mean, you can still maybe you can't dance in the rain because you're in an ocean and you're not able to do much there, but you can have a party on the deck or something like that. You know, you can schedule these things out and that's something that really blows my mind is you can always take like 5 or 10 minutes to just take a time out and work on some things or I don't know. Sounds hippy dippy, but like writing like a letter to yourself or something like that, like, you know, those things really can help a lot over time. They can really add up and
yeah,
compound.
yeah, that's true.
That's good. So let's go back to college, Tanner, and just really quickly, what would be some things you would say that you're like really like that really were good that helped you out a lot, and maybe some things that maybe you could have done a little better?
Yeah. Um, just college in general, or okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say my goal of college from basically from the start was like this is going to be the time to propel myself into my career. However the heck I'm going to do it, I had no idea. Man, I was lost. I heard people say the word internship and I would like shake because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't even know how to even start." But yeah, I think that's something I was fortunate. I'm not going to say I was like the perfect planner. It kind of just worked out. But I would say that's something that went well is I was able to like find different internships through Stukin and then eventually Home Care Pulse that have led me to a career and full-time job that I just super enjoy. Um, I think one of the things I wish I had done better, and this is like, I don't know, it's a big life lesson too that I've realized throughout my life, but especially looking back on college is like, um, a lot of classes, I did the class to get the A. I did not do the class to learn and like actually retain the information. Um, and my last semester of college, I took an investments class, and it was my last semester. I was working 40 hours here, as a BDR, doing 13 credits, um, and I was like, I don't even care. I'm taking this online. I am doing this class to graduate college. That is the end goal. But I look back and I'm like, you know what? There was some really great lessons in there about investing, about different types of investing. I would have loved to actually learn from that class. And so, um, a lot of the classes I took in college from professors about like Excel, I did take those to learn, and I've retained a ton of that information, and it's honestly helped me a lot in sales, being able to create dashboards. Um, even some of the more advanced functionalities I've used still, um, just in like kind of the day to day to track all of my own data. So, um, yeah, I wish I would have learned to learn and not learned to just get it done with.
It's interesting, yeah. There's a lot that we can grab from those classes, and also just like from the professors themselves, that sometimes we just sort of sleep on in the moment. We're really swallowed up in the moment. We're just like, oh, I just gotta get to my next thing. I gotta get the next thing figured out. But I do like what you said about the Excel classes, because I took one at the end of, my time in college, and I took it because I knew it'd be difficult and I wanted to learn something from it, and I still need to take some time to go back and really dig into some of that stuff, because there's a lot of valuable stuff in that class. And I would echo what you said about pursuing opportunities and going through those open doors, because there's so many open doors in college and you don't even know like what it could lead to or what friendships could rise up out of it. And you know
Yeah,
I started a workshop for students my first semester, helping students build YouTube channels and stuff, and that lasted like a year or so, and I only did it like 2 or 3 of the semesters, and then the other semesters somebody else did it. And I met some really good friends, like a couple lifelong friends from that. So it
that's
doesn't
cool.
need to succeed. Yeah, thanks. It doesn't need to succeed like how you want it to succeed, but if you can go through that door, then you never know what could happen, what's on the other side.
Yeah, that's super true. One of my, I would say the most applicable experience to that is it was during COVID 2020. There was a digital sales competition that Stewart put on, and I was like, I did a summer of summer sales. I I can talk to people, so why not? And so I signed up for it, did the pitch, and then I ended up winning that year. Um, which, for me, what I won was an interview for the internship, which I then got, which was my first BDR job, which then led to this home care pulse BDR job, which, it all kind of dominoed, all because really I was willing to be like, you know what, what's the harm in signing up, So I think that's a big thing, just being open to like putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I think I got second or third at that, and that's how we got connected. Was generally at that, in that way. So it's really cool to see how that like kind of goes full circle. And yeah, you just never know what opportunities are out there. But if you take those kind of things when they're there, I mean, you never know. I mean, I'll just say exactly what I just said, I guess. But you just never know what it could lead to. And you're a
Yeah,
good example, I think, Tanner, of like opening doors for people and helping them out. I reached out to you pretty quickly after that and was like, hey, what's some advice or some perspective or something like that. And you gave me some great advice, and so I really appreciate you doing that. Is that how are you able to have you been doing that? Like being able to help out your fellow college students? Like I'm sure you are. And if you are, like how's that been going?
yeah. I don't know so much as just like general college students. I've had like a few people reach out to me, um, about home care pulse specifically, and I actually have a few friends that I've recommended and that are now working here, so that's cool. One of them being Nick Reese from Stukent. He worked there, um, and he graduated. And then I had another friend, who you know, I kind of was just talking about working here, and then he hit me up. So, um, But I'd say especially when people are working here, especially BDRs, because it's freaking hard. It's not an easy job. There's just so much to it. Um, I'll often just spend 20 or 30 minutes with someone trying my best to set them up for success. Not because it's like I'm trying to get recognized, but I just genuinely am like, this is like a hard role, and I know I have some tips because I did it for a while, and I'm still doing a lot of the same stuff that hopefully would be able to help. So it's kind of just like trying to set other people up for success, and then you end up learning a lot when you do that anyway. So
Dang, yeah. Setting people up for success. You got to be at a higher perch yourself to be able to do that. So that's beautiful. Well, how can people like get in touch with you or reach out to you if they want to talk with you more, Tanner?
yeah, they can hit me up on LinkedIn, send me a connection request with a note, and I'd be happy to chat with anyone.
That's good. Is there anything else I guess that you would say or anything else that you are celebrating right now that you just want to celebrate real quick?
Yeah, I will celebrate you and your you've said a lot of nice things about me, so I think it's your time, but um I think you're a great example of just like pushing through um a lot of different life challenges, you could say. I haven't followed super closely, but I know moving, I know, the post-college kind of like what now. It's a real thing, there's a lot of decisions you think are gonna just be almost made for you in college, but like I've noticed you've put yourself out there in countless ways, and so you're also an example to me for sure in that way of just putting yourself out there, not giving up, keeping on, being persistent and determined. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Oh, appreciate that, Tanner. Yeah, it is kind of crazy when you jump from one vision to the next, but there's definitely a lot of really cool stuff that's ahead. And yeah, that is kind of how college was. It's like one vision to the next, and I'm like, it's
Yeah,
like well, there's like a credit screen basically, and I'm like, it's like a movie, and I'm like, all right then. It's like, can we get the next one started? It's like, well, you kind of have to. It's kind of up to you, at this point. And
yeah,
I jumped on a bunch of calls with people, and that helped a ton. Building a network really does help out so much. So I appreciate you saying that.
yeah. No worries. Yeah, and to anyone else, just don't be afraid to take the leap, take a leap of faith, and especially, be humble enough to ask others for advice. Because I think people are willing to give it more than we think. So
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what you said about the intentional piece. If you really are intending to do that, then people are a lot of times really willing to move that forward and help you get going.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's good. Well, we'll definitely have to have you back on in the future, Tanner, and just keep up the great work, man. It was
All
awesome
right.
having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right.